Hi everyone, this is Jen Compton from Life's a Mango, and today I'm interviewing the author Joileen Mischel, who has written a book called Broken Past Heals Dreams, an Australian story of abuse, adversity and acceptance. Welcome, Joileen.
Thank you, Jen.
I've just finished reading your book, and one of the things that it really brought up for me was all the different places in Australia that you lived during your childhood because of the itinerant nature of the work that your parents did, and just the beautiful way that you brought to life for me all the different areas in Australia, all the different places that you saw, you know, from the beautiful sunrises that you got to see when you were doing the grape picking, and you up and down the coast. You just went everywhere, inland Australia. It was incredible, you know, how many places you got to visit during your childhood. And you say in your book that we all have choices in life which have consequences. Can you tell us a bit more what you mean by that?
Well, I think what I really mean, as much as anything, is the fact that a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people have harsh things happen in their life. They had sad things, and because I've had a pretty troubled past early on, I mean, I could quite easily have said, oh, you know, I'm a victim and things that I do, I can blame that. But, you know, I think life has taught me that choices, we all have choices. Everybody has choices, and there's consequences for those choices. And when you read my book, you will see that there have been some consequences for some of the decisions that I made. But I don't believe that we can continually harp on and blame people for what we've become. I believe that, you know, the choices that I've made, that I've take responsibility for, and I think that's, to me, that's important.
I can, so that really stood out for me, that there was something even in your early years of where you would kind of just accept things. You didn't, you tended just to take them in your stride. And I'm thinking of that story you told where you were really loving your nursing training, and then suddenly the carpet was just pulled out from under you and said, no, you're not going to be nursing, you're going to be hairdressing. But somehow you just sort of accepted it and went with the flow.
I guess that's what my life has been. It's funny because even in my adult life, I've moved and you know, had many jobs in many different areas. And I think it's maybe that early itinerant lifestyle. You're just constantly leaving and not making friends and constantly moving on. And after, you can either fight it, or you can accept that that's what life is. That if you hold on to that sadness of it, and there was so much sadness from having to constantly say goodbye, but probably I just, like you said, got on with it. It was just easier not to fight it, because I couldn't change.
And you said here on page 45, you say, deep down, I believed it wouldn't go on forever. I wanted to hold on to that. I did believe it would end someday. It's true, you cling to the things that you get through, and my coping strategy was reading books. Providing I could read, I could transform myself away from my reality and immerse myself in stories of adventure, of boarding school, of other lands and times. That spoke really a lot to me, because your life was so sad in so many ways. Your childhood, you know, the love from your mother that you just craved, and a very strange kind of love from your dad. I wanted to ask, I was intrigued to know, well, first of all, what sort of books did you read? Do you remember any particular authors or stories? And where did you actually get access to those books from?
It's funny, you know, because when I look back on it, I've sort of reflected on that a little bit. And, you know, there's certain things in your life that you don't remember, that you just, I've deleted out of my mind. You know, I think it wasn't libraries. We never went to libraries. It would have been that I just picked it up, or someone would have given it to me, or I would have picked it up in a bookshop when I went to town on the Friday and things like that. And there wasn't any, early on in my primary years, there was the fantasy thing. There was, you know, Enid Blyton and you know, the girls, you know, Secret Seven and Famous Five and all those in Magic Faraway Tree. And I guess that was the kind of, it set up in my mind how I could think, like a thought outside the reality. If you know what I'm saying, it was a reality, because I had to live in that unreality in my life. It was, like you said, one day this will finish. So I kind of had to live with that thought in mind that this wasn't reality. There was going to be a reality. One day it'd be different. My life would be a real good life, you know what I mean? And so, and I desperately wanted to go to boarding school, but funnily enough, that was the threat from my parents, that if I didn't, you know, go along and do what they wanted me to do, and I was always a good girl. I never didn't ever not do what they asked. And I would think, oh, please God, let them send me to boarding school. Never happened. Never happened.
My mother used to threaten me with that as well. Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned Florence Scovelshire in your book, and I too was affected by her and my journey. And in fact, every day when I walk out the door, I say a quote from her that I'm going to share with you. And it is, today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. And that's her little contribution to my life. So I really love that you mentioned her.
She was probably the very beginning. I sent away for her 4 books. I think I mentioned that there.
Yes.
Books they were. And it really started me on the journey. I would have been around about early 30s, I suppose, in my early 30s. And that was the real beginning of my journey, to look outside of the situation that I might be in, and look further on and what I could develop into. Sort of thing.
I heard someone say once, Joileen, that you should bite off more than you can chew and keep chewing. And when I read your book, I just thought, oh my gosh, that's Joileen, because you just seem to take on more and more and more. And of course, it did have consequences. You had a bit of a breakdown, you know, a couple of times, and there were health issues. And then, of course, your children had their health issues, which was another stress for you. But yeah, there were times when I was reading your book thinking, oh my goodness, how much more can this woman take?
I didn't write it to kind of give that impression. It evolved, you know. It was like, I'll just write a few things that I'm doing, you know. I just think when you get to a certain age, as you know, later middle age, you think, well, yeah, where am I and what am I doing? And, you know, have I achieved anything in life and stuff? And it just evolved. And then when I was looking back, I thought, oh, yeah, well, that happened and that happened. And I thought, oh, wow, you know, and this is where I am now. And all those things have happened, but, you know, here I am, I'm in a happy place. So, you know, it's just made, like, it's a cliche, I know, but, you know, I wouldn't be what I am today if it wasn't for whatever. But it's true that we are where we are because of what's before us, you know.
That's right. Look, as a primary school teacher, and coming into contact with a lot of children, and having myself been very, very loved and nurtured when I was a child, it just broke my heart to read a lot of what happened to you. I so wanted your mum to love you. I just wanted that. You know, I could feel that sort of coming through the page, that love that was never going to come, but that you just always wanted there. And when I saw the photos of you and Wayne, your brother, I just had a tear go down my cheek. I think it's a book that people are just going to love, and like me, they're not going to be able to put down. You said on page 158, you said, I have concluded that I have a strength and a resilience which has been my saviour. I've learned to not dwell on what was out of my control and to be a positive example to others. And I think that's just a fantastic quote to take from the book. Joileen, where can people buy your book?
Well, at the moment I'm in pre-sale, so if people go onto my website, joileenmischel.com, the first page just sets it up and explains a little bit about me as well and what the book's about.
Yes.
And people can make that choice then if they like to. All the information's on that website. I'm also on Facebook too.
Right, and can they get your book in any other format, as a Kindle or as an audio book?
Yes, towards the end of the pre-sale, the launch, there will be a Kindle. I think in about 2 weeks' time it'll come out on Kindle. So the people who buy the book will be able to get that on Kindle.
And we're doing the interview today on the 2nd of July, 2020. So just so everybody knows what day we are today. And also the book will be available on Ocean Reef Publishing. Is that right? On their website?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, they are publishers. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, so that's pretty much.
Right. I think I sent you a message last night, Joileen, just to tell you the effect that the book had on me. And I think I said something like, I'm amazed, I'm saddened, I'm bewildered, I'm intrigued. But one thing's for sure, I just couldn't stop reading. And I just wanted to congratulate you on your courage to tell the story, because so much of it is just so personal. And I imagine that was not an easy decision to reveal everything that you have.
I was asked by one reviewer, was I going to put my name to that? And there was a time where I started to write it, and I wrote it in a third person, you know,
yes.
And like she was this. And then I thought, you know, that wouldn't be authentic, because it would be a constructed story. Even though the facts would have been true, people would have maybe doubted, they would have thought I was just manipulating the story. And I thought the only way that I can say that is to show my truth, and that's what happened to me. And so that's sort of how it came about, really.
And Joileen, some of the things that you've done in your life, you've been a grape picker, you've been what else have you done? You've been
pea picking, I've done oranges, apricots, cherries, potatoes, carrots, pumpkins, lettuces, cabbages.
Right.
You know?
And you've a hairdresser, you did some nursing, you then went on to university and studied psychology and health, and you worked yourself with children who've been abused. My goodness, and grandmother to six grandchildren. Just hats off to you. Fantastic story, so inspiring. And I'd just like to say a big thank you, and wishing you every success with your book, Broken Paths Heals Dreams. Thank you, Joileen.
Thank you so much, Jen.